This for anybody including Apple. You can only hide a failure for so long.
Inside Apple, the AI team fractured into two and started fighting against each other. The Siri team was way too slow. It took 2 years for Robbie Walker to figure out how to remove the Hey Siri command. And when ChatGPT dropped in December of 2022, the internal teams were sent scrambling and haven't stopped floundering ever since. Generative AI proved too inconsistent for Apple's typical level of control over their products. Finally, in 2024, Apple announced the new Apple Intelligence and Siri, which didn't exist.
You know what, guys? In life, you have the right to make your own decisions. But depending on the decisions that you do make, some may come with consequences. In my personal opinion, Apple making the decision to make Apple Intelligence is unnecessary. They're literally $1 trillion company due to their great products. And by them making that decision, the consequences of that decision is they end up signing up for a lot of competition and facing a lot of pressures that was unnecessary. They opened their doors to new competitors like OpenAI and Anthropic. It's not looking too good.
Lawsuits for false advertising ensued. Internally within Apple, there's been finger pointing at who's to blame. Apple's AI engineering team says the marketing team is at fault for overhyping features before they were real, while the marketing team says that they were just working with the timelines given from the engineering team themselves. It was a mess. But as the blame game continued, Apple Intelligence and the new Siri still needed a solution. Apple tried talks with Anthropic, but they fell through due to Anthropic asking for too much money.
What you say sets the expectation, and you know what comes with expectation? Pressure. When you're a big tech corporation like Apple and you're overpromising on features about Apple Intelligence, you can't help but for people to expect. And if you don't deliver on their expectations that you set, you're gonna let them down. And that's where trust starts to erode. And you end up seeking Anthropic, and now they want to overcharge you. You're coming from a vulnerable place. They get to charge you whatever they want, man. I should have never signed up for this stuff, bruh.
Now, with little hope of stemming further delays, Apple has gone to Google for help. It's likely just to be a stopgap to get something out while they continue to work on their own AI model. For this privilege, Apple will reportedly pay Google $1 billion per year. The thing is though, Apple and Google have an interesting relationship already. Currently, Google spends $18 billion per year to keep Google Search the default search engine on iPhones. So for Apple to spend a fraction of that money back for a custom AI model isn't too bad of a deal considering how much cash Apple makes.
You know, if I was Apple and I had Apple Intelligence, I would keep it on the low until it's ready to be announced, until it's ready to be released in the public. When you do stuff like this, you end up taking a lot of compromising deals, especially when you're unprepared. Don't ever announce something if it's not ready yet. And that's the problem, guys. They want to compete with these big tech corporations, but they're so unprepared that they actually end up collaborating with some of them. That's crazy, right?
According to Bloomberg, Gemini will be powering Siri's summary and multi-step planning functions. So you may have a question here. Google and user privacy aren't two words that you think would be in harmony with each other. So how does all of this fit in with Apple's privacy-first public image? Well, according to Bloomberg, Apple believes that running the models on its own chips housed in Apple-controlled cloud servers, rather than relying on third-party infrastructure, will better safeguard user privacy. The company has already internally tested the feasibility of the idea. There's a prevailing view that Apple will be very quiet about the deal or any mention of Gemini in their upcoming promotional material. And that makes sense.
You know, that actually does make sense, because when it comes to competition, you never want to give your competitor a competitive advantage. And when it comes to big tech corporations like Apple, they would like to be perceived by the public as holier than thou, as they have everything in check. So collaborating with your competitor just lets you know you don't have everything in check. And obviously that's not a good look at all. So it makes sense why they would keep it in hush mode.
Now let's talk about the wider implications of this story. There's two things going on here. Apple usually jumps into an emerging technology late, but they usually do it right, waiting for others to go first and make the mistakes. To me, it looks like Apple might not be happy with the state of AI at this stage. They think it needs more work before it's ready to meet their standards.
To be honest with you guys, I couldn't really agree more. AI is still something brand new. It's a brand new technology. It's in its preliminary stages. It's been around for what, like 4 years? The first time I ever heard about AI was in 2022 when OpenAI released ChatGPT. So if I was Apple, I'd probably wait it out. I wouldn't want to invest billions of dollars on something that the company itself is not so sure of. When something is in its preliminary stages, you never know, it might just be a phase. I hope AI is a phase, bro. I hope AI is a phase. I'm just saying, you may dump a lot of money and then realize it was never worth it. I'm just saying.
This is new technology, automating capabilities on devices in a reliable way. No one's doing it really well. This just doesn't work reliably enough to be an Apple product.
It was, again, something we thought, as Craig said, we'd actually ship by later in the year. And look, we don't want to disappoint customers. We never do. But it would have been more disappointing to ship something that didn't hit our quality standard, that had an error rate that we felt was unacceptable. So we made what we thought was the best decision. I'd make it again.
I'm not no PR, but when it comes to a company like Apple, they do have high standards, and anything that is deemed less than those standards is not worth investing in, especially billions of dollars. And that's the thing I like about what he's saying. If something doesn't meet their quality standards, it's not worth the risk. And AI has a lot of risk. So if you can offload that risk on another corporation and have them deal with the fallout or the potential fallout, hey, that's kind of wise. Especially how corporations like to copy each other. Maybe Apple can influence other corporations to do the same thing.
If that's the case though, then why not just have no AI at all? Well, there would be pressure from shareholders and the expectation that a finished Apple Intelligence product should be arriving next year. And this is where Gemini's LLM as a stopgap comes into the picture. Secondly, this story is a possible hint that all the trillions in AI spending may not be the most efficient or sustainable way for any given company to make use of the emergence of generative AI as a technology.
You know one thing about shareholders, they always care about their return on investment. And when they give a corporation money, they expect their ROI. And usually that ROI has time constraints. That's why they have quarterly reports to update the shareholders on their investment. And a lot of times, more often than not, shareholders have the ultimate say. They could steer you in a direction that you as a corporation don't deem worthwhile, but because they gave you that money, you gotta adhere to what they say, man.
I'll use the analogy of a smartphone to attempt to explain what I mean. You can look at a smartphone in three parts. The first part is the hardware, which can be analogous to the AI data centers. It's the physical thing that everything runs on. Next is the operating system, iOS or Android, which could be analogous to the AI models. And lastly, we have the apps on the phone, which are analogous to the applications sitting on top of foundational AI models.
Okay, I see what's going on here. You got AI data centers, you got AI models, and you got AI apps. What you deem necessary stays. What you don't deem necessary goes. Do not let competition put you in situations where you feel like it's necessary. Don't involve yourself in things that you don't need to be involved in.
So what OpenAI, Anthropic, xAI, Microsoft, Oracle, etc. are doing by spending billions is building the hardware and the operating systems. But maybe, just maybe, specifically for the AI industry, it's less effort and makes more sense to just build the apps. Why? Well, for the case of the AI industry, we could extrapolate things out, and it's possible that the large language models of the future could just become a commodity.
I think what it is just the cost of competition. Instead of these corporations collaborating and having one data center service all of them, one AI model or maybe a few AI models service all of them, everyone wants their own. And obviously we already know about the detriments of data centers. They cause a lot of havoc for people like me and you in the places that they try to build them at, in the neighborhoods that they are around. Plus, looking at Apple now, it's a lot more resourceful. Instead of spending all this money, you could get to collaborate and take advantage of the tools that other corporations have. Take advantage of the other infrastructure that other corporations have. And if you have something to provide them, they take advantage of that too.
That is, some may be better than others in certain areas, and they could have tweaks towards certain applications. But for general, simple requests for everyday users, they'd all function more or less the same. So if you're Apple, you don't focus on building the LLM, but you use an existing LLM to power an app. In this case, Siri. Now this wasn't their intention, but they may have just accidentally stumbled into a future cost-saving measure.
I can't disagree with that. When it comes to these AI models, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever, for everyday people, I don't really see a difference in between them. That much. Yeah, you may see that one is more advanced than the other, but at the end of the day, it comes down to personal preference. You prefer this model, you prefer this app, that's why you deem it more advanced, because it better suits your needs. Everybody has different needs, so whichever one better suits you, that's the one that you're gonna deem optimal. I use all three, and I don't see like a significant difference between them.
Doesn't that though completely not illegitimize, but basically challenge this idea that you have to spend in the AI race to keep ahead? If you have a company like Apple that basically figures we can partner with people, we don't need to spend and we can still benefit, does that just show you don't need to participate in the arms race for every other company that is?
Apple isn't the first major phone manufacturer to do this though. Licensing third-party AI is what Samsung has done when they built Galaxy AI on top of Google's Gemini.
It just comes down to knowing your spot, man. When it comes to Apple, like I said, they have great products. When it comes to Samsung, they also have great products as well, right? A lot of their profits come from selling these products. OpenAI and Anthropic, bruh, their product is literally that app, ChatGPT or Claude. That's how they make their money. You don't need to rely on what they're relying on because you have your own way. You have your own way to make your money off your products.
While it's embarrassing, Apple's bottom line will be fine. Tim Cook wouldn't be losing much sleep over this hiccup. Apple's iPhone sales slump is largely over thanks to stronger demand for the iPhone 17 in China. According to Bloomberg, new iPhone sales are up 29% year on year. And on the MacBook side of things, they're finally slowly starting to gain market share as their chips are efficient, have great battery life, and more users are becoming frustrated with Windows 11.
See, iPhone sales were down at some point, and now they're back up to normal. They're gaining market share with their MacBooks. That's great. But Apple, if I told you that OpenAI, they probably already know this, or they probably don't, I don't know. OpenAI is spending more than they're earning, and you want to partake in that? Do you want to spend more than you earn? No, I would only hop on another business if it's actually working, if it's actually something worthwhile. That's not worthwhile. I wouldn't even want to have a business that's spending more than it's earning. That's horrible.
So it really isn't the end of the world for Apple, but it's still a fascinating turn of events. So what do you guys think? Do you think AI within smartphones is pretty stupid? Do you think AI-powered assistants are the only exception? Or do you love AI all over your phone?
If we take the conversation and go beyond AI integrated into smartphones, what I can say is this: AI doesn't need to be integrated everywhere because it has its pros and cons. And sometimes those cons, or a lot of times its AI cons, are unbearable, man. They're frustrating. But let me know what y'all think, man. What y'all think about this whole Apple trying to be a part of the AI race or trying to create their own AI. But yeah, I love y'all, man. Peace and love. I'll see y'all next time.